Right. Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. First, folks, let's talk about affirmative action. We're going to talk about what one state in the state of Arkansas, how they're looking to ban the practice and what it means for the next generation and for marginalized communities. We'll have that conversation. Also, I'm going to check in with our online culture crew member, Karen Connor, to talk to us about understanding your personal finances and personal insurance, and why that is so important. We'll have that conversation. And then, of course, in the next hour, we got a whole lot of good stuff for you at the 4 o'clock hour. So, folks, make sure y'all stay tuned. We got a lot to get to. We want to hear your thoughts, of course, and stay with us. We got a lot to cover here on the culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, Welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. First and foremost, folks, happy Friday. Yeah, we've been waiting all week for this one. Happy Friday for all of you out there. If you're working or if you're on your way to leaving a job, whatever the case may be, we hope that you had a great day. All right, folks, let's jump right into it. My first conversation is with you as we talk about affirmative action. And here's the big conversation that's happening around the country, folks, which is about the practice of making sure that there is a level playing field for marginalized communities and people in this country. Let me share with you the latest situation here and what we're seeing in the state of Arkansas, who happens to have the governor, Sarah Huckabee. She's the governor of the state of Arkansas. Y'all remember Sarah Huckabee. She is the one that was part of the Trump administration. So yes, Miss Sarah Huckabee is the governor there. And so let me just share with you what they're saying about the state of Arkansas as they have put up a bill to ban affirmative action. Here we go, folks. Take a look at this. This is coming out, and it's showing that the measure, which is talking about affirmative action, it is a measure that outlaws preferential treatment based on race, sex, color, and ethnicity or national origin. Now, according to the state senator, Mr. Dan Sullivan, a white Republican, he claimed that his plan, which allows state agencies 2 years to comply, aims to combat discrimination. He said, if we are ever going to solve discrimination in the state, it will not be by further discrimination. However, opponents of the bill claimed it could jeopardize several local and state initiatives if passed. In addition to health programs and those for minorities and women entrepreneurs, Democratic State Senator Linda Chesterfield, she worries it could also impact efforts and enterprises that categorize disabled veterans as a specific group. Also, she said the ramifications of this bill are great, especially for ethnic minorities, for women, and for disabled veterans. According to the Associated Press, she said, because you're saying, in essence, there cannot be programs that address the specific needs of those individuals. So I wanted to talk about this, folks, and I want to get your take on this, about what the state of Arkansas is doing about the issue of banning affirmative action. Make sure you post your comments in our YouTube chat. Make sure you post them on Facebook. And let's talk about this for a few moments, about this. And the question that I have for everybody is that, do you think this is a good piece of policy? Should affirmative action, and I'm saying in 2023, should there be a banning of affirmative action? Or do you think that folks need to pull up their bootstraps and work their way to some sort of top? Let me know your thoughts on this. Now, let me just share this with y'all very quickly, and I'm pulling up my notes here around this situation. The fact is, affirmative action came out of a yearning that people were being discriminated against, which is interesting that this state senator is saying that. He said you can't solve discrimination with discrimination. But the funny part about it is that in this current system of things, right, that is rooted in white supremacy, that discrimination, unfortunately, is a key part, a keystone of or fundamental piece of this whole foundation, discrimination. And so with affirmative action, and I don't want us to get mixed up, and I think this is important for us to note. Affirmative action is not giving somebody a pass. It's providing opportunities to open up the door to level the playing field. That's what it's all about, leveling the playing field. Now, remember yesterday, we did talk about this whole self-made myth. We talked about, pulling up your bootstraps. But trust and believe, folks. Trust and believe. Those in power in this country did not everybody in power didn't pull up their bootstraps and they just applied their personal grit. They didn't do that. They had privilege. They had networks. They had people who opened the door for them. And what affirmative action is saying is, well, what about these marginalized communities? What about Black people? What about Latinos? What about Native Americans? What about women? And how do we make sure that we can level the playing field so that way we can close the disparity in wealth, close the disparity in education, close the disparity in all of these other elements of our lives, so that way there can be some level of equality. It may not disrupt all of the inequality, but there could be some level of equality when we're looking at this situation. So I want to get your take on this, folks, and share your thoughts and let me know, should affirmative action stay in place? That's the question that we're asking today as we look at what's going on in the state of Arkansas. Now, I want us to keep this in mind, that the United States Supreme Court is actually deciding a couple of cases that could end affirmative action programs that consider race in college admissions. Y'all remember when this whole college admission scandal the scandal came up, and you had prominent, powerful, influential white families, celebrities in some cases, that were looking to try to get their children in some of these colleges, right? And guess what? They got their children in colleges. So as we talk about this situation with affirmative action providing opportunities, right, for those who have been marginalized, then you, on the flip side, you do have people who take advantage of their privilege, whether it's their race privilege or whether it's their economic privilege, and try to advance themselves to the top. I remember, and I know this is not in the same vein, but it just makes me think. I remember when COVID, at the height of COVID and the whole vaccination came out, there were a number of of wealthy people who were looking to get the vaccine first. Like, no, we deserve the vaccine first. So affirmative action is really about this whole situation of disrupting privilege that we have in this country. To some degree, it again, it's not going to be foolproof. It matters, but it's about how do you level the playing field for those who aren't afforded certain opportunities, giving them an opportunity. And is that bad? I mean, honestly, is that bad? Because we know, according to our experience as being Black people in this country, we know we kind of starting off the race, quote unquote, with a couple of strikes against us, whether it's your background, your socioeconomic origin, whether it's your race. We're starting off we're starting off with a couple of strikes against us. All right, so I want to hear from you. Post your comments. Should affirmative action stay in place? Do you agree or disagree with what the state of Arkansas is doing around this bill? And more importantly, how do you see this? How do you see this playing out, folks? How do you see this playing out? Do we keep going down the path of trying to keep a measure in progress that may or may not open the door, but it could lead to some level of equality? Or do we say, okay, let's scrap that and let's try to figure out something else? Because we got to disrupt the privilege. We do have to disrupt the privilege. We do have to disrupt the myth that everybody can just work. And here's the big thing. There are a number of studies that justify this, but people often assume that if you're from a certain place, especially if you're coming out of a space of poverty, that you don't have strong work ethics, that you don't have what it takes to be successful. Poor people are the hardest working people in this country. Poor people who work 2-3 jobs to try to make ends meet, keep things going, keep the lights on, keep a roof over their head, keep food in the refrigerator, are the hardest working people in this country. Poor people. People below poverty line. Nobody is just all around, just sitting around waiting for a check, right? And we got to keep that in mind. Now, if a child, a Black child, Latino child, or a Native American child, or even an Asian, or even an Asian child comes out of a poor condition, poor household, does that mean that they should not be afforded the opportunity to go to certain schools or they not have the opportunity to work in certain places. I mean, does America not owe that to the groups of people who have bared the brunt of racism, bear the brunt of sexism, bear the brunt of all of the discrimination? Isn't this the right course to take? Let's go to Janelle. Janelle, thank you so much for checking in, kicking us off, and then we're going to take Janelle, and then we're going to take a quick pause. But Janelle, you said, hey, everyone, good afternoon. Ignoring the way this country was established doesn't make it go away. But the Republicans are moving full speed ahead to push the agenda on all fronts. Absolutely. Absolutely. Full speed ahead. And it's problematic. It's problematic, Janelle. And more importantly, not only is it problematic, it's what is actually adding to the decline of this country. I don't understand it with all of these signs and all of the handwriting on the wall in this country, Janelle, that we're still in a space where we're like, well, we're going to just keep the program as it is, keep the agenda moving. Let's hold on to old ideas. Let's hold on to old ways of doing things. Let's hold on to all of this old stuff, because guess what? This is the American way. And not think that you're going to hit that iceberg that is going to essentially sink this country. Race is the iceberg, folks. Privilege is the iceberg. Class is the iceberg, right? Economic disparity. These are all the icebergs in the sea, and America's the Titanic. Y'all know what I'm going with that, right? So we can act as if we can, and to your point, Jana, we can act as if it doesn't matter, or we can act as if, even for us, right? I'm not looking for a handout, but I do recognize that as a Black man, I will be looked upon differently than my white counterpart. If I go into certain spaces, apply for certain opportunities, I'm going to be looked at differently. So I think that we need to have a conversation. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more of your thoughts about this, more about what's happening in the state of Arkansas as they're looking to ban affirmative action. And I'm going to share with you just some more details. And of course, we can continue the conversation. So stay with us. We're just getting started right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All all momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape. With me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now. We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about affirmative action, and more importantly, should affirmative action stay in place? Because in the state of Arkansas, they're looking to ban affirmative action because, as one state senator said, you can't fight discrimination with discrimination. But is affirmative action really about discrimination? That's the big piece. Is affirmative action really about discrimination? Or is it about affording opportunities to do something to give people a little bit more breathing room so they can equalize the playing field? Let me continue to hear from you folks. I got my guy, Willie Frazier. Willie, thank you so much for checking in. You said these states are making it clear. You're saying these states are making it clear where they stand. Either we exercise our disdain by voting, making them suffer economically, and exclude ourselves from representing these states and nation. Okay. So, I mean, yes. And this is the thing, and I know the Democrats don't want to use this language because then it connotates something really, really crazy. It takes folks into a different mindset. But I'm going to use the language that there is a very, very major war that is upon us. And this is not a war of guns. This is a war of ideas, a war of ideals, right? So you have ideas and ideals. This is a war, you know, President Biden has put it out there talking about, quote unquote, the attack on democracy. But this is the type of war where you're looking at the attack on one's civil rights. We're looking at one's you know, a war where this is a moment where, and I'm with you right now, Willie, when you say you got to understand the seriousness of the moment. This requires us to become active participants, active citizens. So this is not just something of like, oh, okay. And I know some black folks have often said, oh, I don't need affirmative action. I can just pull up my own bootstraps. But that's not the case. Because how many times have we all been in a situation where we have done our best, we have met the requirements, and then the goalpost is moved? Right? How many times? How long do you give America an opportunity to do the right thing without forcing her hand? How long do you do that? So this is that type of war. So we're going to keep our eyes on this thing. There's a poll that we're running right now on our YouTube chat. And if you're on YouTube, big shout out to all the crew on YouTube. But the poll says, we're asking, should affirmative action stay in place? Let me show you right now. At this point, votes are still coming in. 88% of you said yes, affirmative action should still stay in place. 12% say no. Because we understand, and this is a part of America finally coming to realize and coming to grips with the reality that you have systemically put communities in the back. And as a result of that, we have not been afforded the opportunities. We have not been able to make the type of progress and gains that we've been wanting to make. So America owes us opportunities. You put us in a disenfranchised position, and then you expect us to get out of that disenfranchised position with this narrative that we should pull up our own bootstraps. But you shouldn't have put us in the disenfranchised position in the beginning. And then when some of us do make it out of the disenfranchised position, right, they pull up their bootstraps, you add additional obstacles. Yeah, that's what we're looking at in America. So we will see. We will see how this whole situation will play out. Look, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's talk about understanding personal insurance. We're going to check in with Culture crew member Karen Connor, and we want to hear from her as she is an expert in the field of insurance and giving us some insights. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much. Taking a look at it,
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hello, can you hear me?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We wanted to switch gears to have a different conversation about understanding personal insurance. Now, this is a conversation that is important because when we're talking about making sure that you have the coverage, making sure that you have your family in mind, especially for those unplanned events of life, you need to have insurance. And look, I'm going to tell you, I have life insurance, my wife, everybody, we understand the importance of it, not just medical insurance. We got all of those things. If you go as far as to put insurance on an automobile, which is a piece of metal, then you should go extra far to ensure that your life is covered in an event of an unplanned event, or more importantly, when that time does come for you to return to the Creator, that you make sure that your family is taken care of. And this is one of the big things that my next guest is going to be talking about. My sister, Karen Connor Waters, she is my sister. She is part of the online culture crew, but she is also a personal insurance specialist to help us understand personal insurance. Karen, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome to the culture.
Hello, Farajii. Oh my God, I wish I could give you a hug. Hello, online culture family. Hello. Thank you for having me, Farajii.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Karen, let's talk about the work that you're doing, because not only do you add to the conversation, to the show each and every day as part of our online culture crew, but you do some very, very important work. And let me just say, insurance is one of the many things that you do. You are from Los Angeles, yes. And I remember when I announced that I had relocated to LA, you were one of the first ones to welcome me, and you sent me this beautiful email, folks. I'm just telling you, she sent me this beautiful email welcoming me and telling me, look, this is how you move in LA. So I'm really, really grateful for Karen. But Karen, let's talk a little bit about the great work that you're doing with in the area of insurance. Because oftentimes this part of the conversation is not being discussed enough. Right. It was emphasized to me as a younger man, the importance of having life insurance, because for so long I was thinking to myself, oh, well, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, then I'm not going to, okay. But once the family started to grow, I thought to myself, you know what, let me take this more seriously. Let me make sure. And I remember getting my policy, and how good it felt. I called my wife and I told her, I said, look, this is the policy. Of course, your name is on it, all of these things. And it has lifted a burden off of my mind to know that in case something happens to me, that my children, my family will have not just enough money to bury me, but they'll have enough money to live from, in a way that, you know, they can actually improve their quality of life. And you know, my son and my daughter can be like, well, Dad, you know, he tried his best, but he did leave something in the coffers for us. So this is important. Talk to us about this.
Yes. Well, Farajii, what's important for we as a people tend to look at property and casualty insurance, which is your auto, home, renter's insurance, a little bit more as a nuisance sometimes, like an afterthought, like a last thought. But for we as a people, insurance is a way to preserve and protect our generational wealth. We all know that systemic racism, tends to impede our generational wealth. And we might not be able to control that, but this we can control. Example, as Farajii just stated, many of the vehicles on the road today are worth over $48,000. Here in Los Angeles and some of our other major cities, vehicles are in excess of 100 and 150,000, and sometimes, $200,000, $1 million. If you are involved in a catastrophic accident and you are determined to be at fault and there's a judgment against you and you are uninsured or underinsured, your wages could be garnished and your future earnings for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And that also includes things like lottery winnings or, if you gambling winnings as well. So some things to keep in mind about this are, if you see a sign on the road that says insurance for $79.99, keep moving, because that is the worst thing that you can do. You have to, your insurance agent, as has been discussed on the culture in the past, has to be able to understand your needs, what you have, and you as you and your family have to decide what all do you have to preserve and protect and insure for that.
No, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because that is something that we don't talk a lot about. And let me ask you this, Karen. Why isn't this part of the normal conversation, especially within the Black community?
Within the Black community, it has always been, I look at it like they really don't want to talk about it, right? I mean, I've been in the insurance business for 35 years and blessed and fortunate to be able to specialize, over the majority of that time for the globally famous client. But I didn't forget where I came from, and I try to give back to my community, even my own family, as much as possible. But it's that cost that people don't want to think about. They want, you want the fancy car and, you want the house, but then when it comes to insurance, you want the cheapest insurance. And that's the worst thing you could do. Why would you spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars, over millions of dollars on a home, cars in some cases, especially here in LA, and then not want to insure it and to get the cheapest insurance possible? And I've been consulted by a person whose wages were being garnished and they didn't understand why. And they drove off the lot with a voucher for protection of the car. But that's all the dealer cared about. They didn't care about protection for the person's liability. And so it was a young lady, a previous employer, and her wages were being garnished every single paycheck. So to preserve and protect, the decision has to change. Your payment, whatever you purchase, whether it's a vehicle, a house, or you're renting your home, your payment plus your insurance equal the payment. So if you have a car payment of $500 and your insurance payment is $300, your car payment is $800. So the decision has to start in the planning stages of what can I afford realistically. Forget about keeping up with the Joneses. The Joneses aren't going to pay for it. You are. So it's important to be realistic and and with homeowners insurance, it's your mortgage payment plus your home insurance plus your property taxes. With renter's insurance, it's your rent plus your renter's insurance.
So, and I'm glad that you kind of broke down for us the various types of insurance. My thinking is, and as I'm talking, as I'm listening to you, I feel like there are so many young Black folks, especially there, that have this attitude, this mindset, which I really want to kill, around this idea that, hey, I don't need this to think long term because I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, I don't need to think about this stuff, right? And I will say that as a mature England, I'm still getting there. So as a mature brother, that it pains me to see that when one of our young people died, or when they're involved in a serious situation,
right,
we saw GoFundMe.
Yes, and that's the problem with that.
We asking people on social media, and we're asking the community, the network, hey, we are here to so such and such.
Right, and as you know, when you purchase, especially like a life insurance policy, there is a rider for children. My children are all adults now, but at the time, I had a rider on my policy for each of my children, and it was $25,000. I had $25,000 per child, and that allowed to pay for their burial. And it's so inexpensive for a young couple like you and Nira and your children. It's a nominal cost to preserve and to protect, to avoid car washes and GoFundMes, which are really
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Boy, oh boy, first and foremost, Karen, I want to bring you back into the frame. Oh my gosh, Karen, I need some personal insurance on my cat. Like the termites are just eating up the tech.
Well, to give you an idea, my daughter and son-in-law went to purchase a home. And they got before their insurance agent, and he thought they were agents because of how I trained them.
Wow. So that way they don't become victims of home appraisal ripoffs. I get it. You got to at this point in time, Karen. You got to train the next generation on all of the traps and all of the stuff that's used against our people, unfortunately. So I totally get it. But we're back around. We want to have this conversation because this is so important. A couple of things here on this issue, Karen. Let's talk a little bit about you kind of broke it down in terms of the number of insurance or the different types of insurance. So how do you start this process? How do our people get out there to start the process to determine what's the best insurance company, what policy fits them best in their lifestyle? Give us some details around that.
Okay. So first, what I encourage everyone to do is to have conversations with your household. Many of us do have multi-generational households. So you may have the parents, children, and you may have, a grandparent, maybe even a great-grandparent. So start with everyone in your household. Sit down and have a meeting. Turn the phones off, please, and sit down and have a meeting about what does everyone have. And then in preparing for an insurance review, whether you're meeting with your existing insurance agent or whether you are, maybe you moved and you're moving to a new agent, start with referrals. If you know whether it's business associates or friends in your area who have insurance, start with that. And then also make sure you do your own research and check out that agent. What is that person's record in the area, their area of expertise? If they have a LinkedIn profile, which most insurance agents should today, I have one, you should be able to see a level of their experience. And when you prepare for this review, please take the time to record everything. I'll start with the home, or whether you rent or you own. Record the interior. Maybe the day after you clean or you have a cleaning lady, please take videos of everything, and please include the drawers, because especially for those of us who are the cooks, you look at your kitchen utensils alone. One of those utensils could cost $20. If you have maybe 50 different gadgets and gizmos around your kitchen, take all that into consideration. Ladies, the lingerie drawer. For we as a community, our hair, we glam up and accessorize our hair with our wardrobes oftentimes. So someone could have $10,000 worth of wigs. And so whatever it is, in your garage, for all the gentlemen who have the gardening tools, if you have your sports equipment, your Christmas, if you have an artificial Christmas tree and all of your Christmas decorations, that's your garage. Your backyard, we tend to barbecue, right? I alone, I have 4 grills and 2 smokers, and you start adding all of that up. So you do an inventory and you record everything and save it to your cloud, and save to a flash drive. Keep it preferably, in a safety deposit box or with a trusted advisor. For our high profile viewers out there, you have business managers. Please save that with your business manager, so that if you have a claim and your house is totally destroyed, you hand that to that adjuster and they should be able to settle that claim in a timely fashion. So part of the responsibility is on us to keep our information in order and make sure we have, and for the multi-generational households, all the personal property owned in that household goes into the interior for everything you can move in and out of the property. And then also your agent, there's insurance, there's independent agents and brokers, which that's what I am. And then there are the direct writers. Really, they offer a different type of service. They offer a different type of coverage. An independent agent and broker is appointed with many different companies, which we are. And then you have the direct writers, which just represent their one company. So their options are limited. Their insurance tends to be a little bit on the cheap side. Not to say it's bad. I know people at all these companies, and I won't berate any of them, but just keep in mind what is best for you. So you do your homework. You need to know what it would cost to rebuild your house if it's totally destroyed. What are the rents in your area? If your house is destroyed, where will you live? If you don't have insurance, or you don't have loss of use on that part of the insurance, where are you going to live?
Right.
For homeowners, and I'm jumping around a little bit on purpose, for homeowners, you should know where, you have children in school, especially for those with children in school. You want to look at the rents and research that in your area. So if your house was destroyed, where would you live? And so all this comes under that umbrella of insurance, because your insurance policies have loss of use coverage. Your agent should be listening to you and have experience to be able to guide you. And hopefully with the information that I share with you, you will know how to ask those questions to make sure that you have the best coverage to rebuild your home, the best coverage to replace the personal property of everyone inside. And also, if you have to reside elsewhere, do you have enough insurance? Because the mortgage is still going on. If your house is totally destroyed, your commitment to that mortgage does not go with that destroyed home. You're still required to pay for the mortgage while paying to reside elsewhere. So it's important that that agent provides you with the best loss of use coverage under that segment of the homeowner's policy, so you can pay your mortgage and reside elsewhere.
Karen, there is so much that that I think that we need to kind of look at when we're talking about this insurance issue, to the point where you really do need to sit down with folks and sit down with an agent or a broker like yourself and have this conversation. We don't have all the time in the world here on the show, obviously, but I do want to know what's the best resource you can give to us today as we start this whole process, or as folks may say, okay, I do have insurance, but let me upgrade it a little bit. Let me add some more things to the insurance because I'm getting older. Our needs have changed for the family. What are some of the best resources that you would recommend?
Well, it starts with that relationship with your agent. It starts with you and your household, your significant, whoever your significant other is, having a conversation with them first to determine what are your needs. If you have an advisor, some of your high-profile viewers have business managers. You have to start having a conversation about where are you today, and also a little bit looking out about 5 years. Do you plan to downsize? Will the children be in college? With vehicles, are you going to be purchasing a vehicle for a child? Would you have a child going away to college? Will they take that vehicle with them? Will they leave it at home? So it starts with just having an assessment of your needs. And then once you assess what those needs are, making time to sit down with your local agent wherever you are. Make sure that that person is someone you trust. They must be a trusted risk advisor. And if you don't feel comfortable with the person, keep looking, because you are in control. And something I want everyone to remember, insurance agents get commission off of your policies. So they owe you service. So it's their responsibility. This is a huge country. So there are insurance agents in every single neighborhood, in every single city. So, if you're in Los Angeles, how large it is here, as well as in places like Georgia and New York.
Right.
You have so many options. So you start by looking, you can start by looking online in your local areas. I also have, I provided Farajii with my LinkedIn contact information, and you can also private message me on Instagram, and also on my business email as well. And we can see if we can be of assistance.
There it is right there. Karen Connors Waters, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your tremendous support that you've been giving to us here on The Culture and the Black Star Network. And, we look forward to having other conversations with you, because you do a host of other things in LA and around the country. So, trust and believe your voice will certainly continue to be a part of this discussion. But thank you so much for giving us an understanding of our personal insurance and how to navigate through that very, very crazy space. Thank you, Karen. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
You too. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to chat with another online culture crew member, my sister Corinna Denise, as we talk to Kimberly Morrow, who is a parenting and education specialist and expert, to talk about how do you have these important conversations about world affairs with your children. Kimberly is going to give us some insight on how you can have the conversation, and more importantly, how to make sure that you can empower your children during these uncertain times. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Our next segment, I wanted to have a conversation about uncertainty. Now, in the time that we're currently living in, there are so many things that are happening, whether it's at home or abroad. And now we're finding out that these things are so big that it's hard to ignore or hard to even shield your children from. And so we wanted to have a conversation about how do you talk to your children about world affairs or about national affairs that may affect them and your family as well. So we are going to be talking to Ms. Kimberly Morrow, who is a parenting and education expert, to give us some insight on this whole thing. And we're also joined by my online culture crew member, Corinna Denise, to also be a part of the conversation. Folks, we encourage you to join us in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, and be a part of the conversation as we discuss this. But Kimberly, I want to welcome you to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you this afternoon?
I am good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Corinna, my sister, how are you this afternoon?
Hey, happy Friday. Hey, Farajii. Hi, Miss Kimberly.
Happy Friday.
Hello.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday. All right, so Kimberly, let's start off with you talking about the work that you're doing as a parenting expert, as an educational expert, because you know you've been in the classroom, you understand the dynamics of the educational system. My sister Corinna, she's also has that background as well, so this is perfect for the two of you to be on together. But the piece about talking to your children about things that are happening outside of the home is a very, very important piece. And I remember growing up, and I think this is very important for us to keep in mind, like there are so many big things happening. It's kind of hard to ignore, you know, whether you're talking about COVID. I know that has been a lot of discussion about, you know, how do you talk about COVID and the changes in classroom learning, to even social justice, police issues, police and the relationship between police and the Black community, especially if you have teenagers in a home. All of these are very, very heavy duty conversations, very sensitive conversations. And in the back of, if you know, like as I'm a parent too, Kimberly, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how do I break this thing down? My son is 9. How do I have these conversations from a 9-year-old all the way up until 18, 19 years old? So let's start here with the work that you're doing in helping parents, because parents need a lot of help today. There's just so many things coming at parents today. But where do we start with those conversations, Kimberly?
You said a mouthful. So
I know, right?
So everything has to be age appropriate, number one. So the conversations that you would have with a 9-year-old are going to be very different from any conversations that you will have with older students. And I treat everything as though I'm in the classroom. So whether I'm talking to my children or other people's children or my students, I always take it from the perspective of being a history teacher. So that's what I did for a number of years. I taught history. So I look at everything from that lens. How would I teach this to my students, or how would I broach this with my students? And so when I do it that way, you're not going to give them everything all at once. You're going to give it to them in digestible bites. So, for example, let's start with the war with Ukraine. And you have a 9-year-old. So, is he in the 4th grade? What grade is your 9-year-old in?
My son is in the 3rd grade. He's in the third grade.
Okay, yeah. So in the 3rd grade, there is no history class in which you could compare this to. So what they're learning in the 3rd grade is about the community, how a community works. And so the way I would explain it to a 3rd grader is in our community, there are certain laws or certain rules that have been established. And so I would compare Russia and Ukraine to maybe different neighborhoods who are at odds with one another, because you have to really meet the child where they are. And so doing it that way, these two neighborhoods are not getting along with one another. And so as a result, there are things that they are fighting with one another. And so because we don't want to alarm the child and oh my God, are they going to come over here and start?
Right.
So we want to make sure that as we're approaching this, we're doing it in a way where we are keeping in mind their sensibilities and where they are with this. And so a child may not understand the whole thing about Russia and the Ukraine and all of this fighting because it's in Europe, but they will understand neighborhoods and families disagreeing or friends disagreeing. So you really got to try to explain it to them in a way they will understand, and then start bringing in the other issues that are going on. But really, you want to keep it age appropriate. Now with high school students or with older students, so if they're in middle school, they've already looked at different countries who've had wars. And so when you start showing it to them from a historical perspective, then they understand, okay, so this may be new to me in my generation, but this is a part of history. So wars have been fought throughout history. So as we started to discuss it, my student is a 9th grader. And when we began to discuss it, I compared it to wars that have already been fought. And so he was like, oh, okay, I can understand that. So
but let me ask you though, little Kimberly, and then Corinna, I want to get your take on this as well. I mean, when we're talking about those major things, right, like the war in Ukraine and Russia and everything, my son, he's very knowledgeable about some world affairs, right?
Okay,
good. But what do you say to some folks who might be watching today or just in general who say, look, you know what, why put that on the child's mind? Like, for example, certain things I remember, and I always tell my son and my daughter's 3, but I always kind of tell them, don't rush your childhood. Don't rush to grow up so fast, wanting to know what's going on with adults. Trust and believe, God willing, you'll have more years. You basically really relish in these young years, because if you live a long life, and by the grace of God, you will have more years as an adult than you will as a child. So it's like how do we provide a balance for that? Because I don't want my children to be worrying themselves with this thinking like, oh my gosh, the world is so crazy, and I want to make sure that they understand, like, you know what, mommy and daddy are the shielding, because that's what my parents did. I remember my mother and father used to have those conversations. And you know, I'm sure Corinna and Kimberly, y'all probably had those. Somebody in family, your child should stay out of adult conversations. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So how do you walk that fine line and making sure that balance is there? That you want to keep them informed, but you don't want to worry them.
So I want to go back. I want to answer what you said, and I want to use myself as an example. I like what you said. We don't want to worry them. Here's the thing. I don't know how old you all are, but I'll just put mine out there. So I grew up during the era of Cold War. So the wall was still there as I was growing up. And
all right, I grew up in the era with the wall.
Okay, and so what I remember, my parents wanted to shield us as well, shield me. So we didn't have those conversations, but it doesn't mean I wasn't thinking about it. I went to bed every night praying that Russia doesn't drop a bomb on us. I internalized everything. And so I was always worried and anxious about it. And because my parents wanted to shield us, we didn't have those conversations. So there was nowhere for me to share my concerns. Okay. And so what I want to say to parents is, yes, we want to shield our children, but if your children have questions or are aware of them, you definitely want to answer their questions, not having to go into a lot of detail, but at least answer some questions, acknowledge it, and then you can even share with them, because that's what I shared with my students. I said, listen, I went through this and came out on the other side. No, Russia never dropped a bomb on us. But I wanted to acknowledge their fears because, yes, we do want to shield our children. But just because we're not talking about it, it doesn't mean they're not thinking about it. And I know I thought about it. I every night, when all this came on with Ukraine, that was the first thing that I remembered. Every night I prayed that Russia didn't, I think back then it was push the codes, right?
Right.
That they didn't hit those codes. And so every night, and I was little, I was probably in elementary school. And I remember that very well. So you definitely want to have some type of conversation and you can even share whatever experiences you remember as a child. So you came up when the wall had already been torn down. So maybe share some things that you remember during that time period. And so anything that will be relatable and then help them feel safe because, hey, we're here. We survived it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Corinna, I want to get your take on this because you're working with young people, you know, and I'm interested to hear what conversations they are having, and more importantly, what conversations they are having with their parents or their caregivers about what's going on in the world. Folks, we are talking to Ms. Kimberly Morrow, who is a parenting and education expert, to talk about how to have these very, very hard conversations with your children. Look, we'll continue the conversation on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to parenting and education expert Kimberly Morrow, who serves as the founder of the Doris L. Morrow Academy, talking to us about parenting and, more importantly, how to have conversations, very, very difficult conversations about world affairs, national affairs with your children to make sure that they understand how things are right now. And it's very, very interesting. And I think it's a very timely conversation. We're also joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, who joins us here on Fridays. She's one of our culture crew members, and she's an educator, and she's doing a lot of other fantastic things. So I'm so happy to have her back with us. But Kimberly, again, thank you so much for your expertise and your insight on this. But and I want to get Corinna, I want to get your take on this, because I'm wondering, you've been working in the schools as well, in different capacities. What are young people saying in currently? Because we aren't privy. I think a lot of adults aren't truly privy to what the conversation is like especially when you have like national affairs. So whether it's the war in Ukraine, whether it's talking about police violence against Black people, or some other national issue, what are the conversations that young people are having around you?
Well, they're definitely talking. And
Okay.
to Miss Kimberly's point, so many things came up in my mind thinking like, why shield them? I really sincerely believe that kids can handle anything as long as we tell them the truth.
Come on, Corinna. Say that for the people in the chat. Come on.
Yeah,
Stop lying to the kids.
Yeah, I really think kids can handle anything as long as we're honest and truthful with them, because we shield them thinking we're protecting them, but then they're going to end up getting that information from somewhere else or someone else. And who better to share these things with them than their own parents, their family members, right? Someone who's around them every day, who cares for them, loves them, protects them, someone that they already have trust and a bond with. And like Ms. Kimberly said, to break it down where it's digestible. Now, a lot of my experience, I've worked with, teenagers, some middle school, but mostly in high schools. And in one charter that I used to work in, every morning in homeroom, our students would watch CNN Student News for maybe about like 10 minutes. And then we would actually discuss some of the topics, quickly just during the morning, what was happening. So they were always aware of current events, and they had that interaction with staff and teachers to kind of break down, their thoughts and feelings and process it. And just to give you an example, some years back, not to bring up the tangerine tyrant, but, my students were very reactive during that time. And I'll never forget the day after the election. It was really this bittersweet, somber feeling in the hallways. And particularly like that population, we had a lot of students of African descent, right? From Senegal, from Nigeria, all over. And given like the policies and everything that, was being put out there, they were really scared, and they were very much aware and informed of what was happening. So much so that we pretty much had to shift gears that day and make space within the lessons that were already planned to have those conversations with students. So kids are more aware than we think, especially we have smartphones now. It's not like when we were coming up, we didn't have that. It's kind of like word of mouth. So everything is at the click of a button. So I sincerely think, it's our responsibility to kind of delve into their mind and raise questions again in a way like, what are you hearing? How often do you watch the news, and engage in those dialogues? Because we don't want them to find out otherwise, especially knowing how much misinformation is out there in the world right now. And, a lot of kids are engaging in social media frequently. So it's very important that we're having these conversations with them so that they know what's happening. Again, depending on the age group, we're going to, give it to them in small chunks, make it digestible, relatable, help them to understand, and giving them a voice to express their concern or their thoughts or to raise questions. But again, end of the day, tell kids the truth. They can handle it. They definitely can. I really believe that.
So yeah, can't wait. And I'm glad that Corinna made that point. And look, Corinna, Silent Money Production said, stop lying to the kids, be transparent. There it is. Stop lying to your children. Oh, look, man, there's a time and place for you to tell the truth to your children, but as long as you tell the truth. Yeah. I remember, Kimberly and Corinna, when 9/11 happened, I used to work at a middle school in Baltimore, and 9/11 happened that morning. and it was like a game changer, right? So, you know, the proximity from Baltimore to DC at that time, I mean, it's like 45 minutes, a little bit less. And so there was a very real concern that what we saw in New York City was going to spill over into Washington, D.C., especially with that other plane. And so, you know, school had to be let out and all of those things. But I don't think that there was like this moment of us really talking about what had happened, right? And when you think about those pivotal moments, Kimberly, where, you know, whether it's a 9/11 or hell, even the election of President Barack Obama, I mean, those schools across the country were having those big moments after that great election in 2008 and even in 2012. You know, it becomes this other thing. But in terms of making sure that children understand certain lessons from it, or they can kind of take those little nuggets of wisdom and say, okay, let me apply this into my life. That's a different level of listening and engaging.
Yes, yes.
So your
yes.
child, a high school student, like for them to be inspired. So if they hear a black man became the president, that's just not like, oh, a black man became the president. It's like, wow, a black person is now president. You know what I mean? Letting them to internalize that. And I think that's the point of having those conversations though, right, Kimberly?
Exactly. And let me just share something. When Barack Obama was elected president, it was my very first year working in this school district. I won't name the district. In California, in the high desert. It's a Republican area. It was like someone died. And there were emails that went out basically saying that they weren't really sure if the teachers should show the inauguration. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life before. Never. And so having parents be able to have conversations with their children about the importance of a Black president is very important, because there are many times where educators, for whatever reason, could be the school district, could be them themselves, are not having those conversations. And so that's why it's very important for us as parents, for us to be the truth tellers for our children, because we can believe that the schools are going to do it, but that's not always the case. And I remember when that email came out, and it was just strange, because at that point I had been teaching for over 10 years, and I never recall a time when we had to get permission or get approval to show the inauguration, or to never. So that's another reason why it's just so important for us as parents. We need to have those conversations with our children. We can't rely on anybody else having those conversations with them.
Share with me and Corinna in terms of the level of exposure a child should have. A lot of our children are exposed to social media. They're exposed to, YouTube and other media to get their news and information, especially high school. I know that high school and college age students, they go to social media to find their news. They're not going to sit in front of the 6 o'clock newscast and watch. Tell us, how do you help to filter, like what are some recommendations to filter that information to make sure that they have a strong sense of self, as well as a strong sense of what's going on?
Corinna, or you want me? Or
no, I'm with you. You, Kimberly. I'm sorry.
Well, one of the things that I did, and this, I just believe that you should do this. So I showed CNN as well, CNN 10 to my students as well. But one of the other things that I would also do is I would balance that, and I would show Fox, I would show other radio news outlets as well. When we had when we were supposed to read articles, because of course I want them to read too. So I would give articles from different newspapers that gave varying perspectives. So I think what's really important is that they're not just looking at one perspective, that they can see different perspectives and be able to decide which way they're going to lean. I remember when I was in high school, we had to be able to debate both sides. And that part has really gone away. Now it's all about one side, one side, one side. But I would tell students, okay, that's the side you're on, but this is the side that I want you to support. And they couldn't understand why I was doing that. But that's the way learning happens, because you're not just learning about your position. You have to learn what the other side's position is as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We got about a minute left in this, Kimberly. What would be some of the big takeaways that you want us to have as we're having these conversations? And most importantly, we know that other national affairs, big events are going to happen. So how do we prepare for that?
My best advice is to personalize everything. And so when these things happen, chances are it's already happened before in history, or it's happened in our own lifetimes. So while the war in Russia and Ukraine hasn't happened in our children's lifetime, we've lived long enough where something has already happened in our lifetime. So you want to personalize it because it's our kids. So we, share our experiences, and then we kind of see what they already know, and then share some other information. But we definitely want to make sure it's where they are and it's age appropriate, but definitely personalize it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Kimberly, our time has certainly been very well spent, but let me tell you, I need to bring you back because me and Corinna need to talk to you about the crisis that we see in the educational system. I came across this piece yesterday, Corinna and Kimberly, where they say that the teacher walkout rate is higher than it has ever been in history. And I'm talking about, when I say walkout rate, I'm talking about teachers are quitting the profession at such a high rate that schools across this country are panicking. And so I think we really need to kind of talk about like what's going on. And is this a sign, especially for Black children, and their parents, should we take our children out of schools and use homeschooling? What should we do? How should Black parents and marginalized communities respond to this? So we don't have the time today. But
sign me up. Sign me up. I love to be a part of that conversation. Yes.
Well, teachers are unsung heroes. So, yeah, they don't get the credit that's due all the time. So, no surprise.
Oh, I know. I don't have, look. I mean, look, I very quickly, if you are a teacher, that's a calling. If you chose to be in the classroom each and every day with Black students, white students, Latinos, and other students, and you're doing that work, that is a calling. That is not a job. That's a calling.
Yes.
That's a calling. Yes. And if you think it's a job, they will run your ass out of there to remind you that it's a calling.
Right.
They will let you know you got to go.
Yes.
Kimberly Marvel, thank you so much for checking in with us this afternoon. We truly appreciate you. How can people follow you or find out more about the work you're doing?
Thank you. So you can visit my website, kimamorrow.com, and it'll lead you to the different things that I'm doing, including the Doris L. Morrow Academy, the publishing that I'm doing. So because I want our kids to write. So
there it is. There it is. And that's phenomenal work. And so much more we got to talk to you. But Kimberly, I appreciate your time so much. And here it is, the website, folks. Here's kimamorrow.com. This is the transformative speaker that she is, parenting education expert. She's gotten her degrees from Harvard and other places of great distinguished, other distinguished institutions. So we're so happy to have you. So thank you so much, Kimberly. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about Disney and diversity, how Disney's attempt at diversity may not truly be inclusive. We'll have that conversation up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back. Let me bring my sister Corinna into this frame as we have our final conversation for today, Corinna, which is about the Disney and diversity. And this is coming out of a number of spaces where people are saying that this latest move or this latest announcement where Yara Shahidi was just was casted as Tinkerbell in the new live action movie Peter Pan. I want to show you the movie, and Keena, if we can show the trailer, and then let's have a conversation about whether Disney's attempts to be inclusive is actually maybe quite limiting. Take a look at this. All right, we're pulling up that in a moment. And the reason I'm saying that is just simply because when Yara Shahidi, when it was announced, I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, Corinna, where it wasn't announced. Like I get her and Halle Bailey. They were brought. Yes, you gotta say that. You'd be like Halle Berry.
How do you
Halle Bailey,
Farajii?
What'd you say?
How do you mix those two up?
You don't. You can't. I mean, you really can't. One of us is a grown ass woman, and the other one's a younger woman. So. But the name's similar in the sound. But yes, I think that in their rollout of the Little Mermaid live action and all of the hoopla around that, I really didn't even know that Yara Shahidi was going to be in the film as the first Black Tinkerbell. I didn't even know that until recently. And I was like, damn, we need to have a conversation. And so take a look at this, and then let's talk about Disney and their attempts at diversity. Take a look.
Tell me, how did you come to Neverland?
Are you
Lost Boys?
Every last one of us. But you're not all boys. So? What is this place? It's home.
Peter found it. Just like he found all of us.
It's like he found me. Peter Pan?
Were you expecting someone else?
What do you say, boys? You ready for an adventure? It looks very far away.
It's closer than you think.
There, look!
What is it that you're afraid of, my love? Perhaps I don't want to grow up. Hold the past in your heart, but where you go from here, it's up to you.
Wendy, Moira, Angela, darling. Where is Peter Pan?
Okay, the house that the mouse has built has put it out there. Live action Peter Pan story. It's a story that's been told for thousands of years. He stopped playing. But they have our sister Yara Shahidi as Tinkerbell, who serves as one of the guide. If you're familiar with the story, Tinkerbell is the guide for Peter Pan. She's like a certain level of his consciousness, right? Which is a very, very pivotal role, because Neera had to explain it. She's like, no, Peter, Tinkerbell actually is one of the major characters, because they build off of her character. Tinkerbell has a series, and there's some other storylines with the character. So Yara Shahidi, a Black woman, is in this role. People are not happy about this, Corinna.
That's awesome.
People are not happy about this. I want to share with y'all what people have been saying about this whole situation. Keenan, let's put up that first quote, bro, around this attempt for diversity. People have criticized Disney as making a lazy attempt at diversity. For the past several years, many have been calling on Hollywood to produce more diverse stories that feature better on-screen representations of people of color. However, some believe the House of Mouse has gotten pretty quote-unquote lazy when it comes to inclusivity efforts, and that it's a telling sign of the studio's true priorities, which seem to still be geared toward white-centric productions. The reason studios make beloved characters Black in the live-action adaptation is so they don't have to go to the trouble of actually giving special, brand new, unique characters made from scratch to Black people, one critic tweeted. Meanwhile, a second commenter echoed this sentiment by saying, while there are a handful of films like The Princess and the Frog, it mostly seemed like Disney was opting to, quote, to just make white characters Black, to be like, hey, we are so accepting, we support everyone. Disney couldn't care less. Another person tweeted that Disney couldn't care less about making new stories with people of color characters. They just put people of color people to play white characters. And that shows, one, how lazy Disney is. Two, how racist this is, as another person wrote. It's like they don't think people of color people deserve their own stories besides like 3 animated movies. Wow. So, Corinna, what's your take on this? Do you feel like it's a lazy attempt, that Disney's attempt to be inclusive is actually very limiting?
You know what? To be honest, until today, I didn't really think about it that specifically, but given everything that you just shared, then I would have to say yes. It sounds like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like what
you're like, well, it's just that, yep, they suck at diversity. That's it.
It sounds like what the ask really is for an original character, right? Because what comes to mind, yeah, we got Princess Tiana, Anika Noni Bell. I think that was like in 2009. That was an original Disney character. I think we've seen Coco. I think Moana is another one. Maybe Lilo and Stitch. She was Hawaiian. But we haven't really seen an authentic character. But, you know, Disney has been rebooting the movies, which, you know, I'm already a little sensitive about, because I'm like, please don't mess up my childhood with these live action films. So it looks like they are casting maybe like, you know, more Black women or other women of color, people of color, to be in these films. Like we just saw her. She was on Beauty and the Beast Live.
Love that.
Yeah, over the holiday
season. My gosh, I love that.
Yeah, but I think really, I think what that article speaks to, they want to see something original and not just someone playing a character that was already established as a white character. They want some originality. So that's kind of how I interpreted the article, which is definitely understandable. However, to be honest, although it would be great, I don't have the expectations that they would, but if it's a pleasant surprise, I would welcome it with open arms. I mean, personally, my favorite maybe Disney princess right now is Princess Shuri of Wakanda, but at the same time, is that really Disney? Because Disney just acquired Marvel, you know, some years ago. It wasn't always.
No, that's not really Disney. No, that's not really Disney.
Yeah, so it's not really Disney, right? No. But Disney not really makes an argument, right? They could say, well, we have these characters who are, you know, people of color or Black characters. They could probably use that as an argument now to justify or kind of to push back on the argument of, you know, this is racist. We're not seeing original characters, and all you're doing is, you know, putting other Black actresses or, you know, to cover roles that were originally intended, you know, who were white. So I kind of see all sides of the argument here. But yeah, I agree. Like it is pretty lazy. Like, are they gonna be original and create some new animations? Because lately we've just seen like the reboots, the live actions of those classic Disney movies that, you know, were a part of a lot of our childhoods growing up. But I haven't seen anything like the only Black princess to date that I can think of is Princess Tiana. You know, when are we gonna have the next original Disney
Let me tell you,
Black princess?
And look, and let me tell you, especially as Black women in this country, y'all are a hot commodity. And I hate to say it like that, but y'all are a hot commodity, right? My daughter, I came across this Netflix production called Karma's World, where they have this little Black girl. She got this beautiful curly fro, and she's like a rapper, right? But she's really brilliant. My daughter loves Ada Twist Scientist. If y'all got children, y'all know these shows. Y'all know these shows, right? Ada Twist, the scientist, right? Black girl, she's a scientist. She got these like multicultural friends and everything. But I think there is something to this point that diversity, which is why I wanted to just have a little mention of this. Diversity is not just about representation. You know, diversity is about being at the table. Diversity is about having a stake. A bigger stake. Like, I'm not for just changing characters. Like, you know, oh, we're gonna make Wendy Black and she's gonna be, and Peter Pan is white. Like, that doesn't, to me, that doesn't push the needle.
Like Prince Eric is definitely gonna be white when
Prince Eric is gonna be white.
You know, like
you know
we have Charlie, but that's it. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the part about it. And I think, you know, for a lot of companies, and you know, I'm glad people are kind of like holding Disney accountable, because you don't want this lazy attempt at diversity, where to the point where it's just about representation. And here's the other side of that. I think that as Black folks, we emphasize representation so often that we think it's a win. When in my view, Coretta, it's not a win. Because so what, you have a Black face, in this case, in a white production. Now, if they made the whole cast of Peter Pan Black and they added some nuances to the storyline, then we could be like, oh boy. But then, you know, probably a quarter of white America is probably going to be having a heart attack. They'll be like, what the hell?
But also the folks behind the scenes, right? Farajii, who's writing the script, who's doing the animation, the graphics.
That's the other part. That's the other.
It has to be
point.
in every part of the production, like on screen, off screen, behind screen. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is a lazy attempt. It's becoming more and more obvious as we're seeing things being rebooted and they're putting faces on here. But yeah, Disney, I think that is a fair challenge and a fair ask. When are you going to create something else again? And we'll just use Princess and the Frog as an example. That was original, you know, although one minor thing, the Princess and the Frog, he was a white guy from New Orleans, but I mean, it was a predominantly Black cast. But yeah, when are we going to see something like that again? You know, and don't just try and patronize us and just put a face on all of these like reboots. But it kind of seems like we've been in that realm now. Even with, you know,
but because I think we want that. We keep saying representation, but then when companies give us representation, it's like, I think we need to be clear as a community, as a people, that about what is it that, how we want to be seen in the world, right? And again, this is all well and good, but it's not just about Blackness in terms of the skin color. It's about, like you made the point of, it's about having the interest, like who's telling the story, and so much more. Let me just take a couple of comments from the crew as we wrap up here. Conscious Thought, you said, as I told a friend of mine, these media and retail companies know that they need Black people due to the shrinking Caucasian demographics in this country and worldwide, need our commerce to survive. Yeah, of course.
Oh,
look, Disney rather take the hit from other white people than to lose Black audiences, continuing to lose Black audiences. That's where Disney is. And Disney is also, they have already put it out there, and I remember reading about this late last year, that they're going to have more members of the LGBTQ community represented in their upcoming projects. So now, if they decide to create original content for LGBTQ characters, then we can really use that as leverage to say, wait a minute, hold up. hold up. If they get a special character, a special brand, a different series, and we're just plopped into the regular stuff that they already had churning out, that's a real big piece of leverage for that as well. So, Conscious Thought, thank you so much. Chris Big, you said I have Disney Plus, and I'm pretty satisfied with the amount of shows that are original Black characters. I got Disney Plus too. I think a lot of people got Disney Plus. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all got Disney Plus. If you got children or if you got adults, it is what it is. But I'm just saying we should still hold the company accountable. Real Brooklyn, my guy, you said it's the same ignorant people who complained about Black Valerians in the House of Dragon, which Tinkerbell and House of Dragons are fictional. It goes to show the level of ignorance we deal with. I get, and Coretta, into the to Real Brooklyn's point, I think it's kind of funny that Black folks or just any folks get so upset about cartoons. I do. Like I understand the diversity. That's true. But then, it's like, it's a cartoon too. You know what I mean? Like, it is a cartoon. Like when the whole Ariel situation came up, it's like, yes, my daughter, she cannot wait. She's telling me that, Daddy, I can't wait till we go see Little Mermaid. I must be Ariel. She loves a little Ariel costume, everything. Daddy, I can't wait. And I'm like, cool. But to me, I always say, it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon. So
I don't even remember that many like predominantly maybe cartoon people of color or Black folks growing up. Like I remember maybe Fat Albert, right? That I think Cosby had out. But very few, maybe like wasn't until I was like, I think it was in high school when like Proud Family came out, some of those more, predominantly Black cast, but they were few and far in between. I mean, like when I was growing up kid in the 90s, like I was watching Ninja Turtles and Tailspin and She-Ra and He-Man.
Right.
I mean, so
you went back. You said She-Ra, yo. You
back, yo. And, He-Man is
that's back in the 80s.
It's like he looks like a brown-skinned melanated man, which was interesting. But yeah, I do think we do want to see that, but it has to kind of be all around. But I wouldn't be surprised, Farajii, to your point you made a few minutes ago, that we might see more of the LGBTQ representation first, rather than just like a predominant cast of like, color. And even so, I feel like when we do see the characters in color, it's kind of like few and far in between. It's almost like it's just like a little sprinkle or like, and it is kind of like, how long do we have to see where we're just kind of like that little speck, on screen or in the picture. So yeah, again, I think it's a fair challenge. Like, when is it going to happen? Because how many more covers are you going to do? I mean, the past few years, they've been bringing out these live versions of all of the animations. So like, yeah, I think, we want some originality. We want to see, but then who's working for Disney? Who's applying for these jobs? Are we putting our foot in the door so that we can be behind the scenes and express our creativity this way? So I think that's a conversation to be had too. We want to see things on the screen, but we also need to evaluate what's happening on the inside, and encourage graphic designers, people who want to get into these fields, to push through. I'm really excited about the guest you had on the show. I think maybe a couple weeks ago. I can't remember who has that Black superhero cartoon coming out.
Yeah.
That's a good point. We have social media now where we can kind of put these own things online. It doesn't necessarily have to be on like a full network on a full scale, although we should see it on a full scale, and I don't want to take away from that. But I think we have to just get a little bit more creative and insightful. Like, well, if we want to see this on the screen, how do we make this happen? And why hasn't it happened? And are these conversations even happening? Like, come on, Disney. Like, it's
gotcha. Hey, look, I appreciate you, Corinna, and we got to hop off, but I thank you so much, as always, for joining us on Fridays, and God willing, we will reconnect with you next week. Thank you so much for being one of our great culture crew members. Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for today's show, and hopefully we get all them termites dealt with. But thank you so much for your support. Thank my team, King Keenan, Joe, the control room, and I thank y'all for your continued support. Make sure you go to blackstarnetwork.com, support us on all social media platforms, continue to support us financially, and more importantly, continue to share the information. Stay with us. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk to you on Monday for another exciting edition of the culture here on the Black Star Network. Look forward to talking to you then. Have a great weekend. Peace.